Hi, thanks for clicking on this video. I wanted to start off by saying that this isn't just set dressing here. I actually have it here to showcase that for the very first time, just yesterday, I finally beat The Legend of Zelda 1 for the NES. This is an accomplishment that's been many years in the making, and one that I'm very glad to say is finally done. It's been on the backlog for so long, but it's also been like toward the top of the list for a very long time. So I'm very glad to finally have beaten it. And I figured that this is as good a time as any to talk about an aspect of my collection that I really am fond of, and that is my CD soundtrack collection. So one of the, I don't know if I might have said this in a prior video, but the main reason I got into collecting CDs, or at least the first reason, was because of soundtracks, because of my love for video game soundtracks, Nintendo soundtracks, and one of the earliest examples were Zelda soundtracks for me. So I've got a handful of Zelda soundtracks here. I'm just gonna showcase them, talk about them, and let's just get started right now. So this is the very first Zelda CD I ever got. That is for Ocarina of Time. Now this is a very basic soundtrack, in a good way. It's just the whole game soundtrack. I love this picture. I love these like watercolor pictures, and they even put that on the disc. But this is just the soundtrack, nothing fancy. But let's go ahead and take a look at this booklet. Great art on the back. I actually had a poster of this exact art for a very long time. Great art on the front too. Awesome way to kind of symbolize the three pieces of the Triforce. And this is another great piece of art. But it's got the little booklet that shows off all the tracks, and it's also got these in-game these item renders that they made back in the day, and they're super neat to look at. Look at that Ocarina, that looks great. But it's got all the tracks in it. Another thing I wanted to do was point out some tracks in these games that stand out to me. When I think of Ocarina of Time, I think of the Kokiri Forest, I think of the Lost Woods theme, Hyrule Field, all the dungeon themes. I really like the Water Temple music. I don't know if that's kind of a hot take. I think of Kakariko Village, I think of the Song of Storms. I could pretty much just name every single song in this game. The Castle Courtyards, when you're trying to sneak past the guards, I love that track. It's just a phenomenal soundtrack and a great start to the CD collection, and a must-have. Ocarina of Time is. I was trying to think. I haven't done a video on Ocarina of Time yet, but I did have some plans on one, so maybe I'll talk about Ocarina of Time more in the future. But just know that game, Zelda as a whole, and that game in particular, are just very dear to me. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next one, and this one's kind of interesting. I said for the Ocarina of Time one that it was pretty straightforward soundtrack, nothing fancy, and I said that in a good way. And what I meant by that was that there are also, what I meant by that is that there are other types of soundtracks that you can get for games that are pretty common, and this is an example of that. This is an example of a sort of compilation set. Nintendo Sound History Series, Zelda the Music. Now, I mean, this is a Japanese CD, that's why the wording is a little funky. But this is a compilation soundtrack. It's got a couple tracks from every game that was released up to that point. This came out in, I think, 2004. Pretty basic looking disc, Zelda the Music, but it's cool nonetheless. But yeah, let's take a look at the little booklet. And it's in Japanese, so obviously I can't read it. But it starts off with the Famicom Disk System track, and then it's got all the music from Zelda 1, the Famicom soundtrack, which is different than the English one, than the American one. Little fun fact there. When I think of Zelda 1, I think of the overworld theme, shocker, because there's not really that much music in this game. I'm willing to bet that a lot of these tracks are like sound effects, like little sound bites. The overworld's great, the dungeon's great, the game over music is really nice. The intro music is beautiful, timeless, really. Zelda 2, I've got kind of a soft spot for Zelda 2. I really haven't played that much of it. It's kind of tough to get into, I'm not gonna lie, but I still like it. And it's the same deal. It's got the Japanese soundtrack, and then it's actually got 2 tracks from the English version, which is kind of interesting. I think that's the opening theme and maybe the dungeon theme. I honestly can't remember. But Zelda 2, I really love. The temple theme in Zelda 2 is awesome. The overall theme is a welcome addition. The town themes are nice. It's a cool game, especially for a soundtrack's sake. Now, honestly, like I'm not listening to NES soundtracks often at all, but it's cool to have these on a CD. So next is a Link to the Past soundtrack, and it's got a weirdly small amount of tracks, but I mean, to be fair, I said like most of these are probably sound effects, but it's got a small amount of tracks. It's got the opening, the title crawl, then it's got like the opening cinematic theme, overworld theme, which all of these have, I'm pretty sure, one more track, and then a track that it used to be my favorite track in Link to the Past when I was younger. The Dark World theme is an awesome track. I just listened to it a couple minutes ago and I still absolutely loved it. But when I think of this game, I think of its version of the Lost Woods soundtrack, which is a really cool take. And also I think of Kakariko Village. It's great. I think of the Fortune Teller's hut. This game's got kind of a funky soundtrack, actually. Not a lot of people talk about how different, it really sets itself apart from other Zelda games in its soundtrack, I believe. But it's a cool one. Even just to have a couple tracks is nice. Ocarina of Time, I talked about it just a minute ago. But it's got like a very similar type of spread. Like track 41's like an item get theme, or like when you get the Ocarina of Time or something, something goofy. I kind of feel like that was a wasted slot, but we'll move on. Majora's Mask, which, spoilers, we'll actually talk about later on in the video. So I'm just going to glaze over that. I don't remember what all those tracks are, but it's kind of similar to the last two. Got a similar kind of spread. And the Wind Waker. This is actually the only form of Wind Waker music I have on a CD, is through this compilation disc, which is why it's like, these are, there's merit to these existing. They're cool. It's got the Great Sea theme, which returning viewers of the channel might have guessed that I love the Wind Waker. I did a whole video on sailing the entire sea, and I really enjoyed making that one. It's a very simple video, but it's long, and I'm proud that I made it. So yeah, Great Sea is on there. When I think of this soundtrack, I think of Outset Island, Windfall Island, the Great Sea theme. The opening theme is fantastic. I think of the pirate ship theme too. Did I say Dragon Roost? I should have. Forest Haven. God, the soundtrack is amazing in the Wind Waker. Pretty much every song on that soundtrack is a banger. And then last but not least is actually kind of a unique one. It's kind of a forgotten one. This is actually the Four Swords soundtrack, and I really haven't played much Four Swords Adventure. I have it, but I just don't have 3 other friends with Game Boy Advanced Link cables that want to play a Zelda game. Well, I probably could find 4 people to play, but I don't even have one Game Boy Advance Link cable. So, but I love. See, I'm not super familiar with that game. I like that it's out there. I respect it from a distance. I'd like to play it one day. But I know that the Blue Maiden Village theme, I remember that from Brawl. That's a great track, and that's on here. Then track 70, kind of a cool addition. It's a kind of a funky arrangement of all of like an arrangement of different Zelda songs. It's pretty cool. You can see you can barely make it out on film, but you can see some screenshots from the games, which are pretty cool to have as like a little border. And I meant to say that like this design is very of the time. It's like it screams like Zelda. It's just green Triforce, some like filigree on the side. It's pretty beautiful. But this is a great CD to have. For one, it's a good way to get access to a CD copy of a lot of those tracks that I don't have a full soundtrack for, but super cool. The next one we're going to talk about, I kind of hinted at earlier. This is the Majora's Mask soundtrack. This was the Nintendo Power. I think it came in the magazine, or maybe you could order it, I'm not sure, but I know it was from Nintendo Power. And this is just like Ocarina of Time, it's the full soundtrack on 2 discs, which kind of surprises me, but I mean, oh my god, look at how many tracks that is. That's well over 100 tracks. Got a little bow and arrow down there, got a cool Majora's Mask design back there. I love Majora's Mask. These discs are cool looking. It's a pretty cool design that they had, like a half green, half purple. Pretty unique. I like that. Alright, I'm gonna try to be. You gotta be careful to put these back in. I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of like cardboard sleeves for discs. They're just not great. This is the same thing, but inverted colors as from disc 1, but super cool to have. These are beautiful. This was another one that I got. I forgot to say, I said this is the first Zelda soundtrack I got. I think I'm doing these in order, actually, because I remember getting that one because it was cheap, and I think that one was $40. This is like 10 years ago that I bought that, and yes, I still remember that. For example, I remember buying the Wind Waker on the GameCube in 2013 for $38. Yes, I do remember that. But yeah, Majora's Mask, great soundtrack. It's like there's a lot of shared tracks from Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, but Majora's Mask has a lot that sets it apart too. So definitely worth exploring both soundtracks for their different reasons. They're both beautiful. This next one is another compilation one, but it's kind of a cool one. This is the Twilight Princess HD compilation, and you might be wondering why specifically Twilight Princess HD. This actually came with the like deluxe bundle, the Wolf Link amiibo bundle for Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U. I got that. Oh shoot. That was the first game I ever pre-ordered. I pre-ordered it from GameStop. I got it day one. It was also the first game I ever got day one. I'm glad that I did, because it's cool to have this. And you know what? Twilight Princess was also, just like Zelda 1, was one on the backlog for forever. And I just beat it in August of 2024. So not even a year ago. Although that feels like just yesterday I finally beat it, but that was a beautiful journey to accomplish. Anyways, the sound selection, another compilation CD, pretty decent selection, honestly. Sometimes it's easy to get worried what they're going to put on these compilations, but they picked a good spread. When I think of this game, I think of Ordon Village theme. I do think of Lake Hylia theme. I think of Ilia's theme. Midna's Lament's great. Sacred Grove is amazing. Unfortunately, I think of Malomart. I think of the Fishing Pond too. That one's really great. I said Lake Hylia. Death Mountain's got a really cool remix in this one. Not a remix, you know what I mean. The Twilight theme is really funky, and I like it a lot. Hyrule Field might be my favorite in this soundtrack, though. It's a very, it might be my favorite song. That's not true. I don't know why I'm saying that, but I love the rendition of Hyrule Field in this game. It makes me think of Brawl again, to talk about Brawl again. This game, even when I was young, when I would start this game up, before I really had any emotional attachment to Zelda, I was just playing it for the first time. This, another thing, Twilight Princess on the Wii was my very first Zelda game. And I played a little bit, and I got into Wind Waker more later on. I bought Wind Waker next, and I got into that quicker than I got into this game, but I really did have a great time in this one. But even like I was saying, even before I had any emotional attachment to Zelda, being a 13-year-old boy, I would start up the game, and the intro for the title theme would start up, and I could probably count on my hand the amount of times I've ever turned that game on and actually skipped it, because every single time it's just been one that's just kept my attention. It was deserving of my respect. I had to just sit there and listen to the whole thing because it was amazing. I would get chills even back then. But what a beautiful game. Glad to have access to some of these great tracks on CD. And before we move on, I remembered that I forgot to say what tracks in this game stand out to me. And also, interestingly, I got into Majora's Mask before I got into Ocarina of Time as a kid. I might do a Majora's Mask video in the future, so I'm not going to get into that too much, but so like some of these tracks, like the Song of Storms, for a very long time I associated with Majora's Mask first, before Ocarina of Time, which is, I would say it's more important in Ocarina of Time, definitely, than Majora's Mask, but that's just kind of an interesting fact. When I think of this game, I hear the Clock Town music, I hear Termina Field, the Milk Bar. The Milk Bar is a great track. Mayor's Meeting's cool. I think of Astral Observatory, I love that track. The minigame track in this game is really cool. It's not a very important track, but that's one that I really like in this game. Also, just like Ocarina of Time, I think of the house theme, the shop theme. It's just all beautiful tracks. Let me look at this other side. Giant's theme's pretty cool. Deku Palace, what a absolute banger. These are all good, but that one's a lot of sound effects. I really like the the Mountain Village, the Southern Swamp, Great Bay. I really like those, and it took me a weirdly long time to realize that they were all the same song, but like with different sound fonts. I really like that track. It's very depressing. It fits the mood very well. Frog Song, track 12, what a banger. Snowhead Temple, that one always stuck out to me. It's very ambient, but I really like it. and also kind of ambient as the Great Bay Temple. That's a tough dungeon. that's the first thing I think of when I think of that dungeon. I love the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time. That might be a wild take, but I really do love that. Not just the music, I'm talking about the temple itself. But the Great Bay Temple, I'll pass. I'll pass. But that song, the Great Bay Temple, is really cool. Calling for Giants, I really liked that one as a kid. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I got to talk about that, because I accidentally skipped over it. And we are actually on our last one, and these ones I've all had for a long time. The most recent one in this stack was when this came out in 2016. And I got this like 2 years ago, like 2 Christmases ago or something. But this is the Link's Awakening soundtrack, specifically for the release of the Switch remake, which I absolutely adore. I think that they nailed it on the Switch remake. And so let me get that out here. Oh, I had a weirdly tough time there. Let me fix all that. There you go. But this game, what a beautiful remake. Aesthetically, it's so neat. Once again, full soundtrack, which is awesome to have. But aesthetically, this game is so neat. I mean, look at that guy. Look at that little guy. And it's such a good game on its own. It was a great game and one of my favorite Zelda games, even playing the Game Boy version. I used to play the Game Boy version all the time. This is a newer disc, so I'm having a tough time getting this out. God, I would love to have like a little display piece that was just this. Oh, it's so good. But this game stood out even as a Game Boy game. But the remaster, it was perfect. They couldn't have done it any better. They could have done this better. The Dungeon Maker. That's funny. I actually tried 100%ing this game on the Switch, and I'm there. I just have 2 more of these really not fun dungeon builder missions to beat. I think it's like 2. It might even be just 1. But that's aside the point. Amazing game. 2-disc set. These discs are beautiful. Having this like storybook style for each disc is so cool. And yeah, absolutely beautiful game. And like I was saying, it stood out on its own on the Game Boy. And one of the things that stood out was the soundtrack. And this actually comes with both soundtracks. Look at Link down there. Look, a little pixel art Link down there. This comes with both soundtracks. It comes with the new one and the original, which is neat to have. And I love how they made this look just like an old Japanese soundtrack. So, you know what? Let me grab. Sorry, I'm trying to reach over and just grab a random Japanese soundtrack to compare it to. This is shoot, I forgot what this is called. Something Goldfish. It's a cool anime. But you could tell me that this was released back when this came out in like the 80s or the 90s or whatever. Just stylistically, they really nailed this style, and I really appreciate that kind of detail. God, look at that art. Oh, it's beautiful. And look at this art. Oh, it's beautiful. But yeah, this soundtrack is phenomenal. And they did a great job remaking it for the modern version. I think they actually kind of nailed it. they didn't stray too far away from the original, but they did enough to it to let it stand alone on its own too. It's great, just a stupendous game. Great soundtrack all around. Look at that! Oh, look at that! It's just, I know it's just straight up screen cap from a Game Boy game, but it's just, oh, it looks so nice. And it's super nice to have here. I have to think what songs I think of when I think of that game. I think of Animal Village, Mabe Village, of course. When you're in the forest, I don't remember the actual track names as well as I should. When you're in the forest, it's great. When you're on the beach, it's great. A lot of my favorite tracks in that game are early on because I never got that far into the Game Boy version as a kid. I played it on my 3DS. I had it downloaded through the eShop, and then that SD card corrupted, so I lost that. I had Link's Awakening DX, and my cartridge corrupted, so I lost that. So a lot of my love for the soundtrack are from like the early game songs, and that's fine too because it's a great soundtrack through and through. But playing through that one, finally getting to beat it on the Switch was a beautiful experience. Notice how I keep using the word beautiful a ton, and that's really the only way I can describe these games and these soundtracks. It's just absolutely phenomenal. But hey, that's all the soundtracks I have from Zelda games, and so that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for listening. I really like making these videos. It's nice to get to talk about these things that I care so much about, and share them with you. But yeah, thanks again for watching. Take care. Hey, thanks again for watching till the end. Before we go, I just wanted to say something about how I'd mentioned in the beginning of the video beating Zelda 1. I mean, I wanted to bring back my book of NES scores. I showed off this book in the Pick Up and Play NES games, and I thought it was cool. I just thought it was interesting to show off that I actually used it again to help me beat Zelda 1. I mapped out the Zelda 1's final dungeon the day that I beat it. I drew out the grid. Here's the entrance here. You could see a grid error caught early on. I went up an extra room for my path, and this thing looks like a total mess, but it's my total mess, and it really helped. I got the picture from Zelda Dungeon, their website, and I drew it on a map so I could have it physically so I can look at it, and just stuff like this. You don't get experiences like this with games anymore, and it's pretty neat. I just wanted to show that off. Thanks again for watching.